Thank you so much for joining me with our midday devotional. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. Today is Tuesday, December 15th. If we're counting, there are 10 more days before Christmas. Uh, I don't know about you, but where I grew up, Christmas was always special. Uh, and what made Christmas special to us was it wasn't the gifts, it was the idea of family being together and just the idea of celebrating, the idea of family fellowship, uh, the food. We knew what to expect. Uh, Basically, not really a turkey every year, but we knew we could have a hen, a roasted hen, sometimes fresh off the yard, uh, dressing. And my mother would put the dressing around the hen or the turkey. Uh, so it wasn't you had dressing in one dish and the hen or the turkey in another dish. Uh, it was one big dish. Uh, Sitting around, the smell of oranges, the smell of apples, the smell of different candies in the home. Uh, Sitting around a fire. We never had a fireplace, but we had a wood heater. And just the smell of the wood and the heat radiating from the wood stove, all of those are the memories of Christmas that mean so much to me personally. And then uh, we would always have an early sunrise Christmas play. Uh, I mean, literally 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd be up, getting dressed, and headed out to the Lake Grove Missionary Baptist Church, the whole community. And we'd be out there for a 6 a.m. service of singing and a Christmas play about the birth of Jesus, uh, praying, encouraging one another. And then by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, we would return home. And needless to say, we would be sleepy, we would be hungry, so we would grab a bite to eat, breakfast. Uh, and keep in mind, in those days, breakfast was the food of what had been cooking all night long. So we didn't have to wait until 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Immediately, we could cut the cakes, eat the sweet potato pies, uh, enjoy some of the country ham or any of the other food. And we could have that for breakfast. And then we take a long nap, play with the toys, and then just sit around and just enjoy things. But we are 10 days away from that time of the year. On yesterday, I talked about uh, the importance of social emotional learning and how it impacts children. And you may say, well, you just got through sharing with us about the joys of Christmas. And now you want to talk about social emotional learning and children. Well, guess where children learn to get excited around certain holidays? It's in their developmental stage. And depending on what's going on in the lives of children during this early time of development, it really dictates moving forward in life how children actually enjoy festival times. Uh, so yesterday I mentioned Jean Piaget, today I want to talk about the four stages of cognitive development that Piaget talked about as early as 1947. And you'll understand at the end of our devotional today why I think that's important, especially in the year 2020, uh, that children have been impacted by this COVID 19 pandemic. When we talk about the sensory-motor period, from the time a child is born, birth to 2 years old, in this stage, the cognitive system of an infant is limited to motor reflexes, but also some more complex procedures builds on those reflexes. Infants interact with their environment. They learn to understand the world and is acquiring the capacity for internalizing thinking. So, you see the little baby laying in the bed and they're just kind of smiling and they're just reaching and grasping, or they're just playing with their fingers, or if they are being bottle fed, they're just kind of playing with a bottle or a rattler or a toy. Uh, that's because they are in that sensory motor period. They're learning textures. Uh, they are listening to sounds. Uh, they are looking at light. They're looking at the different movement of objects, and they are developing that response. They can't audibly respond. They can't verbally respond, but they're taking it all in. And all of that is really new to a child. So from birth to 2 years old, you'll see that child in that stage of the cognitive observation, is what I call it. Uh, they are taking it in, and then they move into that. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse Uh, they then move into a pre-operational period from about age 2 to age 7. Uh, During this stage, children now develop language and mental imagery skills, but they still cannot conceptualize abstractly, and they don't have a sense of time. Now, intelligence becomes less egocentric and more socialized. And I'll talk about that in a second. A child can now think about events and things that aren't present in the moment of speaking. Uh, he can see the world only from his perspective and assumes other do as well. Uh, they want it their way. They want it when they want it. Teaching a child in this stage must take into account his not fully understanding concepts of time and the phenomena of time. So the child is developing language. Uh, they're able to make sentences. They're able to respond yes, no. They're able to articulate what they are asking for. Uh, they are looking at the mental imagery. So you'll see the children playing now. Uh, and they may seem to be focused more on one object, and then they'll take another object and they'll be playing with the two objects. And then all of a sudden, it's almost as if they lose attention because now they see something else that uh, just attracts their interest. Another child may come along. And have you noticed how little children, they may initially invite children into their circle, and then 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later, they may invite the child out of their circle. Uh, they are learning socialization, and they are learning how to be present in the moment. They're learning how to articulate in the moment. Uh, and then you say, well, what does that have to do with what you talked about earlier about Christmas and the joys and the celebrations? Well, this year has been an interesting year. So look at children that were born just 2 years ago. COVID 19 in 2020 kind of intercepted their first opportunity to go out and play with other children. It cut it short. It cut them short from a lot of daycares have closed. A lot of children that were getting that social emotional reinforcement in daycares and preschools, that was cut short. uh, when you look at the children being able to do mental imagery, have you ever watched children play on playgrounds? Right here at the church, there is a daycare, and it got special exceptions. So it has been open the majority of the COVID 19 pandemic. But if you've ever watched children play on the playground or interacting in the rooms, it's amazing the games they play. It's amazing how they can just make up things, and they can take items that as adults we would never put together. And they'll start playing games with a bag and with a pen and with a marker. And they could go 30 minutes or an hour just having fun with that. And then they would look around, and they may see something else that they think might fit that. And they began to bring all of that together. And then they'll start playing. So one child takes this item, another child will take this item, another child would, and then all of the children are just interacting. But COVID 19, 2020, has taken that imagery and that assimilation of that social emotional development away from our children at so many levels. So when we're talking about teaching a child in this stage, now we must take into account that this phenomena of COVID 19 has interfered with that pre-operational stage. The next stage is very crucial, ages 7 through 11. That's the concrete operational period. Children in this stage of development are able to analyze more perspectives simultaneously. Much of learning is performed through assimilating. Although they can understand concrete problems and develop reasoning skills, according to Piaget, they still cannot analyze abstract problems and all of their logical consequences. So everything is kind of concrete. It's black or white. It works or it doesn't. Uh, and the children in this stage, they began to start analyzing the possibilities of what this concrete thought has locked them into. And now they're beginning to take the concreteness, combine it with the abstractness. And now they're saying, okay, so we can do this, we can do this. That's where we get our reasoning skills. But guess what? COVID 19 has impacted that with children. These are children that are going into the second grade, third grade, fourth grade. These are the ages to where children move more away from pleasing parents to becoming peer relational driven. And it's during that very crucial stage of development that the COVID 19 has negatively impacted our children. In the home, yes, the children are able to be creative. Yes, they're able to learn assimilation. But in the public school system or in the private school systems, where they are around their peers, they are around professional educators, they are in different groups. Uh, that's really where the children began to thrive and to really accelerate this concrete operational period. And to a large degree, 2020 has interfered with that. And at so many levels, it is now calling upon the parents, the major care providers, to help facilitate this concrete operational period. And then finally, the formal operational period, from the time a child is 11 years old to adolescency. We're talking about the prepubic stage into puberty. Uh, Piaget claims that the final form of cognition is reached during this stage between ages 11 to adolescency. Abstract thinking capabilities in this stage are very similar to the ones of adults. Individuals at this stage is also capable of hypothetical and deductive, but also reflective and analytical reasoning skills. This is supposed to be the final stage of cognitive development. And although the knowledge base of the individual is still to be explained, his thinking capabilities are now as strong as they would ever get. In other words, the child is now transitioning into adulthood. And at 12, 13, 14 years old, uh, that child's thinking, processing, the ability to grasp, the ability to intellectualize, the ability to socially interact, to discuss, to frame, to share not just toys, but to share concepts and to reach conclusions, group thinking, group socialization, and yet also being able to understand the independency of the individual. By the time that child is in that formal operational state, that's where all of this takes place. But COVID 19 has impacted that. You say, well, how? There have been no basketball games, there have been no football games, there have been no school events, no after school events, there have been no field trips, that there have been no family outings to speak of. And all of these things are so important. Downstairs with the daycare, they will not have a Christmas play this year. They won't have a promotional ceremony this year. Uh, Look at the number of college students who were seniors that did not have an undergrad graduation, a master's commencement, or doctoral commencement. Marriages. Uh, People aren't having big church weddings. Funerals. People aren't having big funerals. But the children in this stage, the formal operational stage, unless we are careful and unless we explain to them that this is temporary, what we're dealing with now is temporary, that child in this formal operational period can walk away with the conclusion that these large gatherings, whether they are formal or informal, we can live without them. So now back to what I started with about celebrating events. This year, unless families make sure they reinforce into a child that this is an abnormality, the 2020 has been an exception and not the rule, children can neutralize their excitement, even about their own birthday. Children may neutralize their excitement about celebrating Independence Day, celebrating birthdays of others, celebrating Thanksgiving, celebrating the birth of Christ, celebrating Easter, because this year they've not been able to do that. Field trips, family vacations, travel, this year, not able to do that. And it can definitely impact the social, emotional development of our children. And I want to encourage each family to please this year, especially during the Christmas season, reiterate to your children that although we can't do a lot this year, this is going to pass. And next year, if it be the Lord's will, as a family, with your friends, with your schoolmates, uh, next year will be different. But let's just thank God this year that we're safe, that we're healthy, and it gives us even greater opportunities to celebrate in the year to come. Let me invite you to pray with me at this time. Father, we thank you so much for the protection you've given us. It is my prayer that you will protect our children and that their social emotional development will continue to thrive even in the midst of this pandemic. Father, I pray that families will just reinforce the love of Christ, reinforce the importance of the birth of Christ, and reinforce into the lives of not only the children, but into the entire family constellation how grateful we are that heaven loved us so much, that God loved us so much, that he sent his only begotten Son